take you through the current political context in the country, because when we speak about young women's participation, we need to look into our surroundings, our country, what is happening, and we think it was to focus on the political context because of your political participation as young people. Why does it matter, or why is it important for you to understand the current political context, to inform your activities, your engagement, your advocacy, if you are involved in advocacy? So we shall look just briefly into what is happening. I know we are all aware, because most of us in this room, we are going to school, we are following events that are happening in the country on a daily basis, whether on social media, we know what is happening, but it's good for us to remind ourselves, to look into what is happening politically, and then what are the current issues that women are championing in the country. Some of them already has been mentioned by our representative from the Ministry of Gender. Okay, we all know that the peace agreement has been in existence since 2018, but before that there were other agreements that were signed. 2015, there was an agreement, right? After the crisis of 2013, there was an agreement that was signed, the agreement for the resolution of conflict in South Sudan, which has not worked well. People went back 2016 to some violence that happened, and then a later renegotiation went on, and the 2018 agreement was signed. However, the agreement has not been working well. I mean, the implementation has been very slow. It has taken us some years now, since 2018. It took more than 2 years it took like 2 years for us as a country after 2018 agreement to establish a national government of national unity. We all know that time when the agreement was signed, there are some political elites who are part of the agreement. They were worried to come back to Juba and start working for the best interest of the public. So it took some time for them to respond, to come to South Sudan, and then the unity government was formed. While there are issues of national army that has not been addressed till now, the issues of constitutional making, it is still there, and then preparation for national election, some efforts has taken place, but it's slow. We have seen there is no any clear information whether election will be happening on 2026 or not. But there are some talks that are happening, but there is no yet guarantee. So the transitional period, initially, according to the agreement, is intended to end in 2021. So it has been extended multiple times, and most recently, we all know the extension has been pushed until the transitional period will end after election, that is 2027. After the 2026 election, then we shall call it over in February 2027 that we are done with the transition. But is it possible? So this year, we all know that there is a lot of changes that happen in terms of the political leadership in the country. So let me say political leadership transition has been happening. So earlier also this year, there were conflicts, or even before that, there were local clashes that has been happening. And this year in March, it has intensified, especially in Nasir, Upper Nile State, between the White Army, we all know, and the SSPDF, over the fears that the garrison in Upper Nile was about to be replaced by forces from rival communities. So there was rumors actually that brought the whole thing. And then the government responded also. We have seen the airstrike that happened in Nasir, causing a lot of casualties. People died, displacement happened, detention even of a political leader, one of the opposition political leader in the country, Riek Machar, and then several other political figures, including his allies, who are in prison. We have the case of the Ministry of Petroleum, the minister, and the deputy chief of army, those faces that were arrested. I think all of you are aware about all this. So the security situation in our country has been deteriorating, and evidently we have seen in Upper Nile what has happened, and some part of Equatorial region. And as I speak today, yesterday the people in Tombora are really crying. If we are following the events in this country, things are not easy. Central Equatoria, there are a lot of issues. People are dying because of land issues, land grabbing. There are a lot of conflicts that are happening. So the political and the military interferences from the region into our South Sudan affairs is happening. We all know to what level Uganda, as one of the guarantors also to the revitalized peace agreement, has deployed forces in South Sudan. And Uganda has been doing that since 2013 crisis. We have seen 2016 crisis. And now recently they again came on board. So the risk of us returning to another war is there. There is a high risk that this country is going back to war. What should be done if there is high risk? What should be done? As civil society, as women-led organizations, we normally advocate for the regional and international community to continue supporting, especially to come on board to support dialogue among the political elites. There is nothing that can help us to move ahead in this country minus dialogue. So dialogue is the only solution. So if you are doing your advocacy as a young person within your community, issues of conflict, political disagreements, and all this requires political dialogue. People need to sit and talk as South Sudanese. Already there are ongoing efforts that are happening. We have seen after the Nasir case, there are already efforts that are happening. The regional and the international actors, they have done a lot. So there was a visit by the AU panel of WISE to South Sudan in April. So the delegation managed to visit the various stakeholders, talking to them, including our president, but unfortunately they could not get access to Riek Machar. So there was also a joint EGAT high-level visit that happened also in May, and then which AU Commission chairperson and the EGAT deputy secretary met with South Sudanese leaders to reaffirm support for the revitalized agreement and to preserve its hard-won gains. There are some gains that we have already achieved from the peace agreement that we don't need to let it go like that. So how can we preserve those gains? So the world is also trying to talk to our leaders to ensure that they actually commit to the peace. Unfortunately, also this team could not get access to Riek Machar. Again, May, EGAT, UNMIS, RGMEC, they also issued a statement regarding the situation. We all know they reconstituted RGMEC in the country. They're also one of the peace mandated mechanisms to support the peace implementation. So whenever violations happen, they provide information. They also urge the parties to the hostilities to cease the hostilities that is happening. In June also, EGAT convened another consultative meeting with the regional and international envoys, discussing about the issues of South Sudan on how to de-escalate tensions and reinforce support for the revitalized peace agreement. So they were emphasizing on the need for coordinated effort to sustain stability and advance the country's transitional roadmap. As women rights organizations, networks, coalitions, we are also not sleeping. We're also doing our part. We have issued statements. I remember one of the statements was issued in March on 17th by the coalition that is under the We Cannot Wait project of CIDA. So we made a call for peace, accountability, action. So the women demanded for immediate action to address the ongoing conflict. We also have a colleague of ours who is also in the same space as one of the women leaders, Jacqueline Nasiwa. She has also been to different spaces. One of the spaces that she participated in April was the UN Security Council meeting that was conducted in April. So she provided the civil society perspective, and she has emphasized on the urgency of finding a political solution to the persistent conflicts in South Sudan. She also called for an immediate ceasefire and long-term peace. There are so many groups who are doing a lot of work. I'm talking about women within the civil society space, but women within the political space also, they are doing their part. They are going like meeting with other political parties among themselves, lobbying for peace and all that. The church leaders also, they are doing their part. They have appealed for dialogue several times. We have seen the South Sudan Council of Churches. They have, in several occasions, they came out demanding for peace and asking our leaders to make sure they go back to dialogue. So let's move to the women's agenda. I wanted us to conclude this briefly so that we go for our tea. So our women in South Sudan, they have been there. And the women did a lot. The South Sudan women played significant and diverse roles alongside with the men during the pre-independence war. And this is the war with the Sudan. We all know when we are still one Sudan, when the war started since 1954, 55, 56. So women has been there. And then we all know also after the 2013 crisis, this is now the South Sudanese civil war, our own war among ourselves. So women also played a very important role from 2013 to 18. So as women, we did not only fight alongside with the men, but also women provided supplies. They cared for children and the elderly. Women have lost also during the war. They lost their children, their husbands, their relatives, you see, and they have left in a very difficult conditions. So women are also victims of sexual and gender-based violence committed by both government and the rebels that are fighting by them. We all know that when conflict happens, there are issues. As women, at times in conflict setting, you are trying to go around to get charcoal, firewood, to cook for your children. So in the process, you get exposed to other issues like sexual violence. That is why there are some organizations currently addressing conflict-related sexual violence, because there are women who have experienced conflict-related sexual violence. They were raped during conflict. And during conflict, rape is always used as a weapon of war. The voice and the agency of women that have traditionally been blocked, the voices of women and agency have been traditionally blocked due to our cultural barriers that I've mentioned before, even in my opening. So meant that women were directly involved as independent negotiators, peace negotiators. So no, women were not actually involved because of the cultural barriers. The previous phases of peace negotiation, women were not involved because of the cultural barriers. So they were not there as negotiators, they were not there as signatories to the peace agreements that were signed previously. So the marginalization of women resulted into interventions. So the situation of what women have gone through has put the non-state actors, including the international communities, calling for inclusion of women's voices. During the struggle for independence, we all know some women also tried by that time, and then also subsequent peace negotiation. As a result of that, through advocacy, voter registration where women participated, grassroots mobilization where women participated, they played a role to see that the referendum happened in a way that almost 97% of South Sudanese voted for the referendum because women were there mobilizing. So as the civil war affected South Sudan from 2013 to 15, women played very important role, crucial role as negotiators. We have seen women who participated in Addis Ababa during the peace agreement. There were 2 women who were there by then, although they went under the political party. We have one of them was Rebecca Okwaje. She was there. And then later, also during the 2018 revitalized peace agreement, there were women who participated to an extent, also were able to become signatories to the revitalized peace agreement. In total, there were 17 women. Just imagine from 2 to 17. So this 2018 agreement has given really a space for women to add their number and to participate effectively. So as per the peace agreement, the revitalized peace agreement 2018, South Sudan is expected to undertake important reforms to recover from the previous wars, with focus on increasing the women's representation in governance. A key component of these reforms is the introduction of the gender quota, the 35% that has been enshrined in the peace agreement, to ensure that women are represented in all decision-making positions. So despite the agreement provided the 35%, women representation in all for women representation in all positions, implementation has been challenging, and the Ministry of Gender can attest to that. Implementation of 35% has been challenging because of lack of political will, because of limited funding. We have seen how our structures, the political structures, the government structures are male-dominated. Discrimination against women in position of decision-making, sexual gender-based violence is also there. If you are a young, vibrant woman who have the aspiration to do in politics, at times you are sexually harassed just to bring your ambitions down. You see, you are harassed so that they kill your dreams. So there is also high level of illiteracy. You see, the illiteracy rate of our women in South Sudan is a problem. The cultural norms that also subordinate women and deny them a voice in public space. These are some of the contributing factors. As women, we normally ask, what does the current political situation mean to us? What is happening now in the country? Politically, we have seen a lot of mess and all this. What does it mean? So it means it's a call for action for us. It means that as women of South Sudan to double also our efforts to ensure that our priorities are taken into consideration, are implemented. So it is a chance for women to correct what has not been achieved. I've talked about 35% since 2018, the signing of the peace agreement. There was recently a policy brief from the Center for Inclusive Governance that shows to what level is 35% is being implemented. So there are some gaps, and those gaps need to be corrected. Yes, we have been advocating, we have been working, pushing for 35%. Maybe we have not been doing it in the right way. What we need to do is maybe we need to sit and revisit our strategies, our engagement. We have to rethink and start doing it in a better way. So the current political situation of what is happening has both challenges for us as women and opportunities. There are a lot of challenges. Women are going through a lot, even economically. Things are not well in the country. Women at home, the family level, they are suffering to put food on the tables. But still within this current hardship, there are opportunities. And this requires us to focus on our priorities. This opportunity is for us to focus on the below priorities. And these are currently what the women are advocating for. These are some of the agendas that the women are talking about. Increase women's political participation. And here we're looking at also the young women political participation. We need to break it down, because if we talk of of women's participation, some of you will just disappear somewhere, right? We'll continue seeing the usual faces of our old mamas that have been in this political space right since 80s. So we're talking of also young women's political participation at all levels, the issue of 35% quarter need to be taken seriously. We're also advocating for the implementation of the National Action Plan 1325 and the related resolutions. We all know the second NAP, and the Ministry of Gender is here. She should tell us something about the second NAP. Where are we with it now? Because we want to implement that document. So as women also, our priority is to advocate for legal and institutional reform. The Minister of Gender was talking about some of the laws, and she gave an update in her opening. So the women in the civil society, the women from all the sectors, they have been working hard advocating for family law, advocating for anti-GBV law, advocating for women's empowerment law. All these laws are very important for us. Women rights organizations, the concerned line ministries that are concerned with women's rights are also working on strengthening the gender-based violence response. There are ongoing advocacy on ending impunity for sexual gender-based violence. There are advocacy on holding perpetrators of sexual gender-based violence accountable at all levels. So as women also, we are currently active. One of our agenda is to see that women participate in the constitutional making process. And indeed, women are participating even at the level of the commission itself. We have representation of women. We have Rita Lopedia, she's there, she sits there. We have Zainab Osman, Mama, she's here. She's here. She is also sitting at that level, that high table to influence our constitution. As a concerned citizen, that is her title, by the way. As a concerned citizen. We have Aloker Malwal, she's also there. So we have Sarah, she's also there. So there is representation of women, but we need many of us to be there, especially when the constitutional making process is rolling out consultations with women, the different groups. You need to raise your voice so that your concerns are taken into consideration. So as women also, we are working hard to ensure that women are prepared for elections, whether it's going to be there on 2026, whether it's not going to be there, but what matters is for us to be prepared. We cannot wait and say that the election is not known. When is it going to happen? We are not sure now. What we need to do is we need to get prepared. As a young person, if you have that political aspiration, you need to start joining political party. You need to start thinking around your manifesto. You need to start thinking around going back to your community. Start working with them, convincing them, because when the campaign time comes, you need to ask for vote from them, right? Yes. So they should get to start knowing who you are. The earlier the better, so that you prepare the ground for yourself. We have seen there are some women who have been in this political space for quite long. I tried to interact with them. I asked them. One of them was this Joy Kwaye in the parliament, the national parliament. One of them is Honorable Maria Pai, who will be here with us shortly. I asked them, but you have been in this space for long. What is that secret? And they told me that, Grace, what you need to do is that as a woman, you need to always be there with the community. Be there with the community. Let them know you do the right thing for their community. They will always have you as their representative. And we all know during the 2010 election, when we were still in Sudan, I remember that time I voted. I even went to the village. I voted for my muse. But he took me. I did not decide to go. We were taken from home to go and vote for him, because by then he was also standing for election. So during the 2010 election, Joy Kwaje stood with so many men.